Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. My name is Alia and I'm one of the team members here at Learn, Do, Become. And today I'm so excited to record the podcast all about how to complete a month-long decluttering project and make it fun. Now I know that for some people, decluttering and fun do not sound like they belong in the same sentence together, but I want to show how it really can be a fun experience and you can really tailor it to meet your needs and what's going on in your life. And it's not only going to help bring that clarity and that sense of peace and calm to your physical spaces, but it also transfers over to your mental and emotional and really all areas of life, and from what I've experienced decluttering. But I'm excited to share what our family did this past month and how you can do something similar. So you can find the show notes and all the related links for this podcast at learndobecome.com/episode 6. So we have all the stuff there for you. I even have a few pictures that you're welcome to look at and a couple extra pieces of inspiration from some of our community members who also participated in a fun decluttering party during the past month. So I want to start out by saying that some of my earliest memories come from the time I spent decluttering with my mom and siblings while I was growing up. My mom did a really great job of making it a regular routine in our home to not only declutter the family's common spaces like the kitchen or the backyard, like a big cupboard where we kept all the basketballs and all the outdoor toys. We didn't just declutter the family spaces, but we also learned how to declutter our own personal spaces on a routine basis. Sometimes she would help us as we were really young if we weren't sure if we'd outgrown different clothes or if we needed to talk through whether or not to donate certain stuffed animals or things like that. But she really helped us learn the principles and the practice of decluttering from a very young age, and she involved us in the process from start to finish. And then that really helped translate into my own success decluttering as an adult, because I felt like I had a lot of experience and a lot of really good decluttering and cleaning principles and a foundation to start me out, as an adult. So that was just kind of my starting point. And while I was recovering from some surgeries last month, I decided to make it one of my family projects for the month as a spring cleaning and decluttering project that we could work on together. Now here at Learn to Become, we encourage you to have a very focused current projects list each month with no more than 8 projects maximum on that list across all the areas of your life. And we recommend setting it up by me, family, and beyond, just kind of those general categories for the different areas of life. So the family project that I wanted to work on this month was spring cleaning and decluttering. And I really only had, I think, 2 or 3 projects on my current projects list maximum. I knew that I needed to recover. It was going to be a little bit slower of a month compared to some past months and projects that I completed, but that was okay. This was a great family project that we could tackle together, and it ended up being really fun. So as I was recovering and resting on the couch, I got a piece of poster paper and some markers, and I went room by room in my mind and thought about all the little 10 to 30 minute tasks that I wanted to accomplish. And now I will say that our apartment is already pretty tidy. We have some really solid routines in place that help us do an apartment reset once a day. So that means that we don't have a big pile up of papers or dishes or laundry or anything like that. We have really good routines in place that we've worked really hard to develop and implement as a couple and now as a family. We have a 2-year-old right now. So if you are looking for some extra support on routines, my husband Josh and I actually made a little standalone routines resource that you can check out. And all the information is at learndobecome.com/RME. So it stands for Routines Made Easy. So we made a little mini course that is solely focused on routines, especially in a family context, in a household that's very busy, has a lot going on. So you're welcome to check that out. I also have it linked on the show notes page here at learndobecome.com/episode 6. So if you're looking for some routine resources, that might be a great place to start. But because our apartment is generally very tidy and we have a lot of things already in the right places, I felt like we could do more surface level cleaning. We didn't need to do deep cleaning, but there were just a few random one-off things that needed to be done that really don't fit into the usual daily or weekly cleaning. Things like taking down our winter curtains, because we have these really thick curtains that keep it nice in the winter, but they're not really needed in the summertime. And all those little tasks that just kind of felt like they were adding up in my mind. And I really want to emphasize that as you're looking to possibly implement this idea into your own home or office, if you find that you're starting from square one, where you don't quite have routines in place, or you're just getting started with your decluttering journey, please break these projects into multiple sub-projects so that everything feels manageable. For example, if your kitchen is overflowing with items and has lots of piles on the counters and floors and all over the place, I probably wouldn't recommend making, quote unquote, declutter the kitchen one of your current projects. You might need to write down declutter the floor items and clean the floor as your first project. That way you can have a great starting point and you'll have room to move around your kitchen. So if you start looking at your different spaces around your house, your office, things like that, and if it starts feeling overwhelming or frustrating or discouraging, that might be a sign to just reassess where you're at and say, how can I make this simpler and smaller in a bite-sized project that I can actually reasonably accomplish during the month? Because if we write down, I'm going to declutter the whole garage in 1 month, most of us don't actually have the time and energy and ability to declutter the whole garage in 1 month. We might need to focus on just the left side of the garage, or just the area with sports equipment, or I'm just going to focus on the deep freezer in the garage because that is a whole mess in and of itself. So please be patient with yourself and also be realistic with how much time, energy, and how much work each section of your living space is going to take. Because there were some areas in our apartment where I thought I broke it down into small enough tasks, but then as I was working on it, especially our pantry, I didn't realize how long it was going to take for us to get everything out of the pantry. And then once we finally put it back in, I was like, that took a lot of hours compared to what I thought it would take. I thought it would maybe be an hour max or something like that. And it ended up being, over the course of 2 days, just several hours here and there. Obviously broken up into a lot smaller pieces. But I wasn't very realistic with myself in how long it would take to tidy and declutter the whole entire pantry. And then that left me feeling a little bit frustrated. And of course, that was one of the very first things we started with in our whole decluttering project. And so I felt like that could have derailed me. But instead I thought, I just didn't break it up small enough. Now I can know for the future that I need to do a little bit better there. And so that's what really helped me to simplify and make really good progress in the rest of the project throughout the month. So just encouraging you to do that same thing. So as I was sitting on the couch, recovering and resting, I was able to get my little paper out and I wrote down all the different areas of our house. The front area, the living room, our bedroom, the office. I even wrote down our cars because there were we wanted to vacuum the cars. We wanted to Windex one of the windows that our son put his mouth all over while we were waiting in a parking lot somewhere. Just all those random things that kind of add up in your mind over time. That's where I did a mind sweep and I got all of that out of my head. Now I love the concept of the mind sweep, and we talk about that in our Steps to Everyday Productivity program. We also have some resources about that on our website. But essentially, a mind sweep is where you write down either on paper or in a digital note all the different things that are swirling around in your head, and then you're able to categorize them by whether or not it's a task, a project, or a routine, and then you can also sort it by priority based on what needs to happen right now, and then what could go on your next in line or someday lists. That's been a huge helpful tool for me, and I found that using it in this situation for making my decluttering list was really helpful and just let me get everything out of my head. And there were a couple small things that didn't quite fit into what I could reasonably do during the month of April. So I put those on my next in line list and I wasn't going to stress out about them. But here on the show notes page, I've included a picture of the exact little list that we followed for the month of April and all the different things that I wrote down from our apartment. So you're welcome to go look at that picture and get some inspiration. And I tried to make sure that it was broken down into about 10 to 30-minute tasks so that nothing would feel too overwhelming, and everything on the list was something that we could reasonably accomplish if we had an open pocket of time show up during our day. So once I'd created that list, I was able to figure out then how we're going to fit those little tasks into our days. And this is where you get to make it fun and customize it to meet your available time and needs. I personally felt like we were in a pretty quick timeline because as I was making that list, we're expecting our second baby about a month. When I first made the list, it was about 2 months from making the list to our due date. And so I was really hoping that we could finish everything before having a baby, and we did, thankfully. And we finished the project with some time to spare, so thankfully we were able to get all of that done. But of course, if we weren't able to do everything before having another baby, it would not have been the end of the world and we would have been totally fine. But that's why I really wanted to prioritize this as one of my current projects for the month of April. I was really paying attention to our timeline for the next couple months. And as I did my weekly review and as I was addressing my current projects list and looking at that and figuring out what is on my plate right now, what's coming up on the calendar, what do I reasonably have time and energy to do, I was able to take a good look at my projects list and realize this is probably one of the most important ones to move up, because if it does matter to me to have a really clean, decluttered apartment to bring a new baby home to, then I need to obviously prioritize this project over other projects. So again, this is where it's going to depend on what you have going on in your life. If you're in a really busy season at work and you have a lot of work projects and it doesn't make sense to use your available energy on decluttering and cleaning when you get home from work, that's totally fine. That might be a project to do in a couple months from now. Or if you feel like you're in a similar situation to me, that might mean you want to fast track this project and put it at the very top of your current projects list, and then it becomes something that you focus on right away. So again, customize this to meet your needs. And as for me, I just knew that there were certain things that we should try accomplishing together as a family before we become a family of 4, before we go through the newborn stage again. And so that was just my personal preference on how I wanted to fit it into our life. And I also wanted to take my energy and health into consideration while I was working on this project, because I was still recovering from surgery, and it made a lot more sense for me to prioritize spending time at home, sitting down, having my feet up, and not trying to cram in a bunch of stuff to my day that would take me on a lot of errands or have to run around a lot of different places while I wasn't feeling 100%. So with all of those different situations in mind, I just figured this is a great time to do this project and we can reasonably accomplish it in this month. So each day I completed my daily review. We also talk more about this in our Steps to Everyday Productivity program. But essentially, that's just looking at what you have ahead on your schedule, what's on your calendar, do you have any places you need to be or appointments you need to be at? And then I would pay attention to the open pockets of time that existed in each day on the calendar. And then I would ask myself, which task can I reasonably do with our son? He's almost 2, so some tasks were definitely easier to do with him involved than others, but we tried to make it a game and we tried to make it a really fun, involved experience for both of us. And I really loved being able to look at my calendar each morning and say, what do we have ahead of us? And then based on how he slept that night or how I slept and our energy that day, we could figure out how to incorporate some of these tasks from my big list of things I wanted to declutter or organize or accomplish during the month for our spring cleaning. And that made it really easy and manageable. So for example, when we decluttered the pantry, our son helped me take out every single item out of the pantry, and we turned it into a game. I sat in a chair because I figured I can't be on my feet a ton right now, and if it makes him happy and he loves being the one to run to the pantry and grab stuff and then bring it over to me, by all means, I'm going to let him get his energy out and make it a fun experience. So for almost 3 hours that day, we just sat and he brought me things from the pantry, and it was great. And we talked about how to say different items. Like I told him the different names of the cans of food or the different condiments he was bringing, all that kind of stuff. So we made it a fun experience for him to learn, but also get his energy out. and I was able to sit and have my feet up and relax. And I didn't have him working for 3 straight hours, don't worry. We definitely broke up the decluttering time with meals and playtime, but he loved being included in the process, and he's usually not allowed to play in the pantry. So for him, it was just the best thing ever to be able to have free reign of the pantry for a second and also be very helpful to me and learn a lot in the process. And so if you don't have children in the home, this is where you get to customize it to meet your needs. Of course, if you have toddlers or other young kids, you're going to have to figure out, does somebody need a nap time? Does someone, are they going to be more helpful than the other child based on just age or experience, things like that. So obviously you'll have to take that into consideration. But if you don't have children at home, this could be a great time to listen to a podcast or an audiobook that you've been wanting to listen to for a while. Maybe have a phone call with a friend that you've been meaning to catch up with, or even invite someone over to work alongside you. If you have a neighbor or somebody in the community that you've wanted to talk with, a lot of people love being involved. And if there's a way that they can help you in the process, I think there's no shame in asking for help decluttering, especially if you have limited mobility or if you just want someone to talk to. I think there's a great way to have that relationship strengthening time, whether it's with a child or a friend or another loved one. You can strengthen the relationship while you work. This is a great time to figure out, is there a book or a podcast or an online course that you've been meaning to get to, just never happens, there's never time. Or maybe you just like working in silence and you want to have that time to think because you're constantly getting a ton of information thrown at you online or in person, and maybe just some quiet time is needed for decluttering. So this is where I personally consider it to be very fun to declutter. Maybe a little bit less so with a 2-year-old. It does require some more mental energy to plan things around when he's happy and when he's rested. But I feel like overall, it can be a very happy and positive experience if you're able to tailor it to meet your current circumstances. So my son and I got the majority of the tasks completed from our main list while we were together throughout each of the days in the month. And then during some of the evenings and on some weekends, we worked together as a whole family. My husband is a full-time medical student right now, so he's very busy in school, but we really try to prioritize family time, especially in the evenings and the weekends. And so that time that we spend together is really important. And I was able to delegate some of the more labor-intensive tasks to my husband because I wasn't able to wipe down all the kitchen cabinets. I didn't have that range of motion right away. And I wasn't able to comfortably reach all of the tall kitchen cabinets and get everything out of them. So I was able to sit nearby in a chair and I was able to give a couple ideas of where we could put certain things or if we wanted to declutter and donate certain things. And then I was also able to just have some meaningful conversations with my husband while he did more of the physical side of the work. And then I was able to talk with him and we could collaborate on the different areas that we were decluttering. So I love that we were able to do that together because I could have said, well, he's tired, he's had a long day, or I'm just not going to worry about doing this one because I can't reach the cabinets or I can't really bend over for that long to wipe down all the cabinets. But instead, we were able to really figure out how we could make it work as a family and make it a teamwork experience. Of course, everything wasn't absolutely perfect. There were some decluttering sessions that were a lot more peaceful than others, especially once our son was getting tired and we were all kind of losing our patience. That's when we kind of needed to step back and say, all right, let's reevaluate and let's maybe pause the decluttering for a second. But I would love that we were able to work together as a family and make it happen. And then after a month of working on this project in 10 to 30 minute increments, everything was done. We checked everything off on our list. And I have a little picture of me holding the list on our show notes page. And I really enjoyed this decluttering and spring cleaning project. And I really want to make it one of our annual springtime routines as a family because we won't always need to do these exact same tasks year after year. But I think it's really nice to be able to do a mind sweep of everything that needs to be done around our apartment, in the cars, all the different areas of life that we have going on right now. And then we're able to work on those tasks and make it happen together. And I do know that it's going to look different year by year. For example, right now, a lot of the tasks on this list were about getting the baby clothes out and setting up the bassinet and doing a lot of the things that were very specific to this season of life and getting ready to have another child. And that is going to look different next year when we may be moving for my husband's medical school rotations. Maybe we'll be needing to declutter to do some packing up. Who knows? It's hard to exactly, predict and know exactly where we're going to be a year from now. But I love knowing that we have this foundation here where we know exactly how we can declutter and how we can make it possible as a family, and that it's totally doable when we really evaluate what is on our current projects list, and do we have the physical, emotional, mental, like all the different categories, do we have that capability to add another new project into our lives? And when we really are intentional about the projects we put on our current projects list, that is the difference between getting projects done and then not doing them or letting them sit on a maybe list forever and feeling bad about how we never got around to XYZ. So I hope this is encouraging to you. And if you're looking for more support on how to set up your own system so that you can manage the projects and tasks and routines that come into your life, we have a really great free training called How to Finally Stop Drowning in Piles, where we teach how to start setting this framework up. And you can find that at learndobecome.com/step. And then we also have the STEP program, which I've mentioned a couple times, at learndobecome.com/step program. So again, all of those links are here on the show notes. And then at the bottom of my show notes, I actually have a couple before and after pictures from some of our Arisers. In our Arise membership this past month, we were able to do a decluttering party, and we had our Arisers submit collectively over 200 10-minute microbursts that they completed to tidy their different physical, digital, and mental spaces. So I included just 3 pictures here, but imagine these 3 pictures times 200 was what all the Arisers were able to do during the month. And it was so awesome and so encouraging to see what they were able to do and how they were able to transform their spaces in literally just 10 to 15 minutes at a time of working on a certain area. So there's one of a bathroom counter that had a lot of different bottles and items kind of shoved into a little bin. And then in the after picture, they were put onto a different tray to help organize them. And it just looks so much easier to locate the different items. Another Ariser transformed their nightstand space, so it had a lot of books and a lot of papers kind of just shoved into the different areas of the nightstand. And then they were able to declutter in about 10 minutes and just keep the journals and books that they actually wanted to use on a regular basis. And then finally, one of the Arisers was able to tidy up their coffee drawer, and it only took them 8 minutes. So they have the before picture. It's just a lot of coffee, tea, different bags and boxes, all just in a drawer. And then after 8 minutes, they were able to tidy it up, take out things they didn't need, make sure it was more streamlined, and it looks so wonderful. And I also included a picture from my own office supplies area. I have a little 3-drawer office supplies holder that was just a mess, and it looks so much nicer now that I was able to declutter it. That was one of the items on our little decluttering checklist for the month. I really wanted to declutter our office supplies because I use them so much, but I was constantly digging through random stuff trying to find them, and I decided that's going to be one of the things I focus on, and it was so awesome to get that done. All right, so just to close, it is so amazing what just 10 minutes of decluttering can do to have such a huge impact on the spaces that we see and use most often. So if you have a project in mind of somewhere that you want to declutter, I would love to hear from you. And you can leave it in the comments here at learndobecome.com/episode 6, or you're welcome to share it in our Facebook group. We have a free Facebook community. You can find that at learndobecome.com/FB family for Facebook family. And if you have some before and after pictures that you want to share from your decluttering, we would love to hear from you. And I also included a couple special helpful links here on the show notes page about principles for decluttering. There's a great podcast there. And also we had a podcast from a little while back called How to Declutter the Whole House in 1 Month. and it's the process that our family followed before we made a big move out of state. So I hope those resources are helpful, and we're so grateful to have you here, and we'll see you next time here at Learn, Do, Become.